So I want to just take a second before I jump into that. I want to say something that I've never publicly said to any of my friends or any of my, my family. The only people that know are the people that were involved in that.
Yeah.
There was a moment in time, I was so close to giving up on everything.
So 1, 2, 3, 4. How many have you flipped so far?
I don't know the exact number, but hundreds. What's up, guys? Tal Levinson here, your host of Camera. Which one's the best?
Well, I mean, whichever you want. The three others are looking at you. This is yours.
Guys, I got to tell you guys a very professional setup here. This is not a joke. My man is here, and he's all about the business.
There you go.
Tal Levinson here, Tiki Talks. I'm here interviewing a very good friend, colleague, business associate, Brian Murillo. My man here is taking the real estate world by a storm. I'm just kidding.
This is your show. This is the guest of today. That is Tal Levinson. That's his energy, and love it, bro. Like, let me just start with who is Tal Levinson as far as like professional side. You're a real estate agent, real estate investor, and now recently, because a year, maybe 2 years into real estate development, which is amazing. It's a transition that I truly believe that anybody in our industry should be it's the dream, because it's like getting into all aspects of the industry. So powerful. Somebody that likes to travel, enjoy himself, and man, just the intro was the energy, man. That's Tal. That's Tal, yeah, which is awesome.
Gotta have fun sometimes,
Yes, and that's something that I've honestly admire about you. You mentioned about fun.
Thanks.
The fact that you like to enjoy yourself, not only on the personal side, but also, integrating that in the professional. Every time that I go to the office, you're the one that brings the energy, and make the change. So let's start with that.
Sure.
Where does that come from? Where do you get that energy?
Well, I just think that life is all about balance, right? I know it's cliche, but I think I live by that on a day-to-day basis, whether it's, personal or professional. I think it's important to motivate people in a lot of different ways. It could be your friends, it could be your family, it could be your work associates like yourself. And, you have to be very conscious of that.
Yeah.
So, sometimes we're in the office and obviously everyone's super busy, everyone's super serious. It could be a very good day collectively as far as energy, or it could be not so good day. And I pay attention to those things. Obviously my door is open in the office and I can hear, I can see, I can feel the vibe. And if I see that something is kind of trending, not in such a good way, or maybe it could be a little bit better, I just take the initiative to go and uplift people.
I've noticed. You use the word motivation.
Yeah.
When you go to your bio on Instagram, like that word is there. It's crazy because it's like, obviously I don't go to your bio often, but it's like I know what it says, and it just stuck to me the fact that you put that word there.
Yeah.
Because it describes you so much. Motivation, not only for yourself. I could see how you really are into motivation, but motivation to others.
For sure.
And that energy, like you transmit to a lot, anybody else in the industry.
I agree with you 1,000%. That's if I could describe myself in a couple words, the top word would be a motivator, and where that comes from is from my childhood, really. Because I remember.
Tell me a little bit more about that.
It's where it stems from is listen, as we're all growing up, it could be we're kids trying to figure ourselves out. Sometimes we're not the most confident, or we don't really know what direction we're going. And so I remember when I had those moments where I kind of wish I had someone that would motivate me or would kind of push me in the right direction. And I had to teach myself that. Yeah. So as obviously I got older and I got more successful, kind of took that burden upon myself to just be that person around.
Tell me a little bit about that. You mentioned confidence, and you had to teach yourself that. Because anybody that meets you today, you're a pretty confident guy. I mean, you were the one that opened the introduction here, which is awesome.
Thanks, man.
How someone can build confidence? How do you build confidence? What do you think happened, life events throughout your life that help you build confidence?
Taking chances, believing in yourself, and collecting small wins and big wins. So, obviously you won't believe in your abilities until you kind of put yourself out on the line.
Yes.
You're going to fail sometimes, obviously, but you learn from that. And I think that once you get some good momentum and you figure out, you know, who you are, what you're good at, what your skills are. It just kind of propels from there.
Got you. And you mentioned childhood. Are you born and raised here in Florida?
Yeah, so I was born in Plantation, lived here until I was 3. Then I moved to Israel until I was 9 years old. My mom's Israeli, my dad's American. Interesting combination for sure.
Yeah,
multicultural.
Really. I could see that.
Very, very interesting. And then I moved back here after I lived in Israel, stayed here pretty much my entire life. So I'm more American for sure.
More American. Okay.
Yeah.
And so you basically were in Israel. How was that experience living in Israel as a kid?
It was interesting because Israel is an incredible place. You know, I feel like it's a very misunderstood place because it's in the Middle East, and you know, sometimes when people hear
ignorance, when people don't know,
for sure,
you just
you see things on CNN.
Yeah.
You know, you hear all the negative stuff, but you don't see like
that
the
happens with my homeland too, DR, in different, you know, political topics. I'm not gonna get into it, but it's like people just hear stuff, and they just get a perception of it.
Yeah.
So, how was that? How is Israel?
So, I think that, you know, as incredible of a country it is, you know, I love it. I was just there. It was, you know, I was there in June. I go there every summer. Beautiful people, beautiful beaches. You know, beautiful sightseeing, things like that. It's a complicated place to live. The cost of living is through the roof.
Really?
Politics are out of whack.
Yeah.
People are super stressed. Imagine, you know how New York is?
Yeah.
As you can imagine, a lot of bumper to bumper traffic, people, you know, on top of each other. Imagine that times 10.
Yeah.
That's how people are. So, you know, it's not an easy place to live, but, you know.
Would you say that it's a place that helped you build character?
100%. Being in that environment as a kid, you know, you kind of learn how to fend for yourself. And then it teaches you a lot of life skills very easily. So I think when I moved here and I had that type of personality integration, it helped me advance here very quickly.
Got you. Okay, so how old were you at when you were living in Israel?
It was from the age of 3 until 9, so like 6 years.
3 to 9. I mean, I feel that that's the age where most kids can get, you know, a lot of their personality from. So I could see how being raised in an environment that teach you that, again, in a rough environment like you describe it, can help you navigate and build the confidence that you also mentioned that you had to teach yourself. It's interesting. And then what happened? We moved to the U.S. and how was life living in the U.S. after living in Israel?
It's funny that you say that. It's almost things seemed a little bit easier here.
Yeah.
So, and you know this, you know, obviously we're second generation from, you know, foreign parents and stuff. I feel like, no disrespect to people that were born and raised here, but I feel like sometimes people that were born and raised here take things for granted,
100%.
right? So you come here with that motivation, you come here with that work ethic, and things are naturally easier.
Yes.
Because you just have a different dial.
Yes.
So, you know, the language barrier was a little tough because Hebrew was more dominant for me.
So would you say you learned, because you told me the very first, obviously, 3 years you were born here, so your first language is Hebrew.
Well, first language was English, just because I was here and I was in daycare and all that. But, you know, from 3 to 9 it was just Hebrew.
Yeah.
And then when I came here, my English was broken. I had to be, you know, there's like programs to like get my English back.
And then talking
ESL,
about confidence, right? Like build confidence, Oh
my God. I remember and I have no shame in saying this, I think it was like the first week that I was here, the teacher asked me to read a certain line in the book in class in English, and I was so scared and so embarrassed.
Wow.
I didn't know what to do. I literally just ran out of the class.
Like on top of that, adding the public speaking side,
oh my
in front
God,
of people, it's like
in front of like 30, 40 students, you know. And keep in mind, back then I had no confidence.
Yeah.
But it's like little things like that. If you choose to allow that to change you and to like help you. You know what I mean? It just kind of adds on to things.
Those small events are the ones that they're gonna define who you are.
100%.
If you take it and approach it, in a position of like try to overcome it, it's like, okay, my English is not good. Let me work to, you know, make it better, or let those situations like bring you back. That's what defines it. Start building, you know, that lack of confidence,
right?
As well. So it's interesting. So tell me a little bit more about growing up. We're talking about bringing a little bit more forward. High school here, Plantation. Were you a good kid, good student?
It's funny that you say that. Guys, I was, as you categorize a bad boy. I was an adrenaline junkie.
Do you get in trouble a lot?
Yeah, definitely. But it's funny because I feel like there's a lot of stories out there, you know, the ones that were always getting in trouble and C, you know, or B, C students or whatever, the ones that became entrepreneurs, whatever. But the thing with me that was a little bit different is, even though I like to have a good time, maybe sometimes I did a couple, you know, stupid things. I always got my work done. I always made sure that my priorities are in check.
Gotcha.
So I never let it kind of drift that direction.
Affect your
too much.
academic side?
Never,
Okay.
never.
So
it's
you
like,
got along with the teachers?
100%. And it's like, the thing is, like, I also knew how to work the system.
Yeah.
I knew
in what aspect?
I learned relationships.
Yeah.
I learned early on. It's like, you don't have to be the most studious kid. You don't have to be, you know, the kid that devotes the most time into their craft or into what they're learning.
Yeah.
You have to be very good with relationships. You have to be very good with the people that are managing that situation, because if you can figure out, you know, what they like and how they can, you know, benefit you, how you can benefit them, it works out for everybody.
Makes sense. Would you say that of all your quality traits as an entrepreneur, that what you just said about building relationships and know how to build a relationship, it's one of the top 3, maybe the top 1?
100%.
In as part of you?
So I could tell you this, from the very first moment that I did any type of business transaction up until now, as you mentioned, development and stuff.
Yeah.
The most important thing, period, is relationships. More than anything, period.
And that is something that I've been learning from you a lot too. The way that you handle situations and people too. That's a superpower, and we're gonna get a little bit into that. But I'm curious. You're an entrepreneur. How do you get into the business world?
I feel like it's a.
What was your first business?
Yeah. So the way that I got into the business world was, I mean, it could be defined in a lot of different ways. But I remember when I was a kid, I would literally just go door knocking. You know,
really?
Yeah. So, you know, some schools they provide kids with like these little brochures of like holiday gifts and things like that, and they expect kids to go to like family members and neighbors and try and sell it and collect payments and stuff like that, and then they will reward you by getting free merchandise or, you know, money or whatever it is. I remember that was the very first thing that I did when I was in school.
Your first interaction with sales.
100%.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. I guess maybe it's because what I learned from my dad, and we'll get into that. I was fearless. And I think, again, going back to my early point of like putting yourself out there.
Yeah, building confidence.
But you have to, though.
Yeah.
If you don't try and you don't put yourself out there, you're never going to realize what your potential is.
Yeah.
And so I did that, and obviously at first I didn't know what the hell I was doing.
Yeah.
But then I slowly started to realize, like, okay, you can't just go and look pretty and have a little magazine, be like, hey, sir, or hey, ma'am, you want to buy this? No. You have to understand the product. You have to understand every single page. You have to understand every single detail. You have to understand every single objection.
Yes.
And then, most importantly, you have to understand yourself and then the person that's in front of you.
Yes.
And if you can figure that out, it's a done deal.
Yes, exactly. That's so good. You mentioned your dad when you talk about that. How much of an influence was him in your life when? Huge impact. My dad, by trade, is a financial advisor. So he would be on the phones all the time. Really?
I remember when I was a kid, I would watch him do, you know, a sales pitch and just call people and try and, you know, get them to sign up to certain products and certain things. And I used to be in awe.
Really?
I used to look at him. Yeah, I used to look at him and be like, how is this guy so good? You know, obviously they say your dad's your hero.
Of course, yeah.
But outside of that, it's like, this guy is so good.
Yeah.
Every time his like conversion rate was through the roof. He was super good. I'm like, I want to be just like that. And I remember, like, I was like, how, and I didn't know which way to go. But then he kind of taught me a little bit.
Yeah.
And then now thinking about my biggest strength with it, I think is sales and just talking to people.
Yeah.
That's a huge point of origin for me.
Yes.
For sure.
Yes. No, makes total sense. So you had success with selling those at school.
Yeah.
And then what happened after, as far as like business? What was your first business?
First business was...
You got a formal job at the beginning? Did you ever work for corporate?
No, never worked for corporate. I went to everyone has high school jobs, random stuff here and there. But I'll go into also the college and stuff. I went to UCF, went there for a year, and then I left and I went to Broward College. I got my associate's degree, and then I dropped out. I stopped. Classic dropout story, guys.
Why?
Why? Because I just remember I had like a very, very vivid moment where I was looking at the professor and I was just like, this isn't me. The pace is too slow. Where I want to get, the value that I can extract out of this situation is too slow. I want hands-on. I want to go out. I want to implement myself. I want to work.
Yes.
I want to learn by experience.
That's interesting. That's interesting that you use that term about the pace. It's not necessarily saying that this is not the place for me, or is not the place that for anyone.
For sure.
It's just the pace that you wanted to
100%.
go. Which is true. Like when you go to you're going for a formal education, it takes time. The curriculums are 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years.
100%.
So you gotta follow a pace.
Oh yeah.
And usually the trend is you gotta finish school and then go apply whatever you learn.
Someone's managing your time.
Yes.
Your ability to schedule and to advance. And let me just say one thing, because I want to kind of clarify this. I have obviously no issue with anybody that's, that chose to go to school or is in school. I think it's incredible. I think that if you need structure, if you need guidance, it's awesome. If you want to become an attorney, a doctor, whatever it is, amazing. But not everybody's cut out for that.
Yes.
I know for sure if I wanted to pursue it, I could have been very successful at it.
Yeah.
But it just didn't suit my needs at that time. I just wanted to ramp up the learning curve, and I wanted to put my skills to work very quickly.
And the number one reason why we get or seek for a formal education is to be successful at something.
Definitely.
You prove yourself. You are successful. So, okay, it wasn't your thing. You drop out. What do you do after?
Right. So it's interesting because I had an extra layer of motivation because I didn't have a degree. So I would see a lot of my friends, graduate, and everyone is starting to make money and has that safety net, so to speak. So I just told I told myself in my head, I was like, if you don't become successful on your own, if you don't really prove this to yourself and to people around you, you're going to kind of look like a joke.
Wow.
Imagine carrying that with you every single day.
Yes.
So nothing's a joke, right? We're talking about balance, right?
Yeah.
Having fun and all that, but that's always first. Me not embarrassing myself or my family, or not wasting my time, my youth, and my life.
Yeah.
So after that,
that was fuel.
Fuel, big time. Talk about whys. That's one of the whys. I have many whys, but that was a huge why, is to not disappoint.
Yes.
And to not take advantage. My biggest thing, not trying to get off topic, my biggest thing is when I see talent, or when I see someone that's successful, or someone that has a lot of potential, and they don't exercise it, and they don't put themselves in the right position, or they just waste it.
It's sad. It's sad, when you recognize that. It could be anywhere you go, even in a restaurant, that in interaction with the waiter and stuff, like, there's nothing wrong with their profession and whatever they do.
Sure.
That was the path that they chose. And who knows, we might be judging from the outside, but even if you engage in a conversation and you get to even notice what the dream are and how they handle themselves, and you say, wow, there's so much potential, like, you could excel in another environment. 100%. It's just like literally you're one decision away 100% from doing that.
This happened to me. It's funny you mentioned that. This happened to me over the summer now when I was on my trip to Israel and to France. I think I had 3 different situations where I was at a restaurant or different places, public places, and I literally told the waiter or the waitress, you're way better than this, with all respects to the business.
Yes.
You're such an incredible person. The energy that you have, dedication that you have to this job, it's like you're taking on as your own. So my biggest thing is like, I have to express what I see and what I believe and what I feel when I see these people. Because maybe that's the extra push that they need.
100%.
You know what I mean?
That is so powerful, and I'm glad to hear that you actually did. That is something that it takes a lot, because you never know how the other person is going to receive that.
Sure.
But most people appreciate it, especially if it's genuine, and you actually point it out as a real thing that you're noticing. That's powerful.
Yeah, and like you said earlier too, it's just how you motivate people not every single, it's kind of like, you know, like love language.
Yeah.
And that way, not everyone gets motivated the same way.
Yeah.
Right? So you have to figure out the person first. You're not just going to throw random shit at them, right? You're going to have to figure out, okay, this is this person. This is what their values are. This is what moves them. This is what motivates them. How can I articulate my words in a way where they can perceive it in a very good way and actually take that and then, you know, translate that into fuel and then go on and do whatever they
love it
in the office with you, with the guys, all that. But
and any translate, you know, we all feel it. We all feel your energy, bro. You bring that energy. So okay, school wasn't for you. You drop out, and then that is so powerful when you mention of the fact that, like, okay, majority of my circle chose that path. I'm seeing that they're having results. I don't want to look back for myself, for my family, by the decision that I took. I need to do something now. What happened there? What do you do?
So then I had this huge fear, and I was just like, you know what? I know I'm going to be successful. I just don't know how yet. And I kept looking around. I was like looking for mentors, and I was like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do this? You know, for anyone that's watching, it's like, you know, if you're thinking about jumping into business or into, you know, entrepreneurship or anything, there's no clear-cut way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's all very, very subjective to who you are and what you're good at. So I just kind of, you know, I utilized my network, and I started to see what other people were doing in terms of business, what works and what doesn't.
Yeah.
And then I used my own judgment to then invest my time in certain things. So I had a bunch of different businesses from that point up until I got into real estate.
What was your first one?
First one was an online clothing store.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Online clothing store, and the whole premise behind that was to have anything that's kind of like a trend, anything that could be a potential like lyrics or like a logo or anything, and just create custom
What year
clothing.
are we talking about?
This was back in 2014,
Okay.
13, 14.
Okay. And then online. So literally, but buying already clothing already made and stuff, and just posting it and having.
So I had some contacts of like family, friends that had it.
Going back to relationships.
Yeah. That beachwear stores locally, so they would have, you know, all the wholesale clothing. So I would get say hoodies for like $6.50 a piece, and T-shirts for like $1.50, and then, you know, basically you wouldn't buy anything or you wouldn't waste anything unless somebody ordered it. So, you know, I would just have that at my disposal. I did very well. I had stores obviously its own website. I did SEO, put campaigns and all that. I had an eBay store.
How old were you?
At that time, I was like 22, 23.
Wow.
Yeah. It was pretty good. It was
doing well.
It was doing well. But I remember once I realized that it was capped to what I thought I should take it to, because I didn't want to be the guy that's operating an online clothing store forever.
Yeah.
Right? But for that niche, for that type of market, I just, you know, it became very old very quick.
Got you.
But it served its purpose. I learned a lot from that. Systems, setting things up, employees, blah, blah, blah.
There you go. So what was the second one? What do you jump into it after?
I got into kiosks in malls. Everyone knows you can go to Sawgrass, you can go to Broward, you can go to Coal Square, whatever it is.
They're knowing people in the
100%.
in the hallway. Try this, try that.
People come up to you and it's like, hey, buy this, buy that.
Yeah.
And it's funny because like everyday people, ordinary people that just walk into the malls, I feel like unless you're there on the weekend with your family and you want to go there and you're motivated by something specific, you don't want to be bothered.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you want to go in, you want to go out, you want to buy your shoes, you want to buy your tie, you want to buy your suit, whatever it is. And so...
Which that person, it doesn't bother me, you know. It's just there's a couple of them that they insist, you know, too much.
But that's the whole thing, though. It's like you're talking about, like, you know, motivation and how you can like figure things out and build skills. That I think what started, you know, the beginning of me becoming an extremely good salesperson was that experience.
So you opened what? You opened one kiosk.
In the beginning, I opened one.
You were there the whole time? I
was there. I actually partnered up with a friend, and it was the same concept as the online clothing store. We had a press machine for T-shirts and hoodies and all that.
Yes.
So we had a bunch of different displays for the logos, and people could come and give their own designs.
Nice.
That was the first one.
Okay.
Did well, but again, wasn't it. Then because I cultivated a relationship again with the leasing manager at that mall, which was Broward Mall.
Yeah.
There was actually an opportunity It was a kiosk that was already built out, and the utility of the kiosk was to be a frozen yogurt destination for people in the malls.
Yeah.
The person that was operating it was a foreign national individual, and the reason why they invested the money in there and wanted to get that business going is because they wanted to get a work visa to stay through business. I guess they realized very early on it wasn't very feasible.
Smart.
Didn't make too much sense for them, but it was
the business.
The business.
I mean, it probably served the purpose for what they were looking for. Who knows?
I'm assuming, but the thing is, it was crazy because I remember I witnessed them building it.
Yeah.
And those things they're not cheap. They cost like anywhere between like 50, maybe sometimes 100,000, depending on the layout. I remember within 30 days of the kiosk being built, the individual left. They weren't even operating.
Wow.
Yeah, insane. So I don't really know what happened.
It wasn't for a, with intention on opening a business.
Right.
It had a different type of purpose. I could see that. So then what happened?
So let's talk about relationships and let's talk about identifying an opportunity too.
Yeah.
Always keep your eyes open. Always look around because you never know. Things change in a matter of a second, split second. You might have something that shows itself in one way and that's a certain period of time, and then something that changes, and then you can be the person that reaps that reward.
Yeah.
So I saw that, I was like, that didn't make any sense. I was like, why did this person literally just do this, spend all this money and leave? So I went to the leasing manager. It's like, hey, what's going on? Well, they left. I'm like, okay, what are you guys gonna do with it? We're gonna try and lease it out unless you wanna operate it. I was like, oh, wow, okay. So I worked out a deal with them. I didn't know anything about frozen yogurt or ice cream or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I saw an opportunity.
Yeah.
So just letting that opportunity go bothered me.
Yes.
That was enough motivation.
And you didn't have that's probably what the first business taught you too. You didn't, because you had a first experience, you already lost the fear of jumping into something.
100%.
It was more like figuring out how to put it more, together. The first business, probably the investment was way less, but the concept was the same. It's just to jump into another level.
Yeah.
And then you guys opened the location and...
Yeah, I mean, but the thing is, like, I think what people need to look for in certain situations is like being incentivized. And if something makes sense, but it might be a little risky, it's still worth you pursuing.
Yeah.
So I saw an opportunity. It almost didn't make any sense for me to not jump at it.
Yeah.
I was paying $2,000 a month for something that should have been like $6,000 or $7,000.
Wow.
Fraction of the cost. I didn't have to expense any money for the actual build out. All I had to do was put my time and my energy into figuring out how to make it work.
Yeah.
And obviously there's a risk factor. You have to invest some money, but that's what propelled me forward. So I was on the hunt. I was like, you know what? Let me figure this out. Give me 30 days. Let's sign an exclusivity agreement that you're not going to sign with anybody else. So I don't go and waste my time, of course.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, if I can figure out how to put this together in 30 days, I'll do it. I'll sign a lease for at least a year with a renewal clause, blah, blah, blah. Went on, I started like researching, how does this work? What machines do I need to buy? How much are the machines cost? Anyone that knows frozen yogurt or that industry, those machines brand new can cost up to like 60, 70,000.
Wow.
Per machine, it's insane.
Wow.
So then I started looking up used machines. I found this nice situation where this guy had 4 of them and he was selling them for $5,000 a piece. Stupid deal at the time. I learned how to weigh the product, because they price it per ounce, how the POS system works, how the toppings work, and the cooling, and all the mechanisms.
So I'm noticing a lot of stuff. Obviously, relationships you mentioned, confidence to get into business, and also the research part. Not being afraid and doing the due diligence to find out, the best products and everything. So it's a combination of a lot of stuff. It's not only one or the other. You can have all the relationships in the world, but if you don't have the confidence to use the relationship, and also the discernment to identify the opportunity,
for sure,
like it's not going to work.
Right.
So the formula has to have all the elements. Was it successful?
It was successful. It wasn't as successful as I wanted it to be, but I made it as good as it could be for things that were, not in my control.
Gotcha.
What I mean by that is you can't control traffic in the mall. It's not my job to market, the public and get people to come to the mall. But as far as having a clean, efficient,
business working,
successful product and business, for sure. I tried everything, and I actually had a deal with the movie theater that came in after, and we did like co-marketing, and I had like strategic marketing stickers throughout the mall so people can like walk and follow it. I thought of everything.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is like motivation, as you were mentioning. will get you to where you want to go. But efficiency is what will ensure longevity.
That's awesome.
You can't just waste your time and go and, you know, explore everything.
100%.
But that takes time, it takes experience.
There's more into it.
Exactly.
I'm noticing a trend too, from the online business and then the yogurt. Like as soon as you start seeing it was successful, but as soon as you start seeing that there was a cap, then I guess you kind of lost interest on it. So after that, that's when you jump into real estate. I'm curious, what got you to real estate?
Well, there's a little bit more actually. So you're right though. It's once you realize how far you can scale things or how successful things can become, you know, then your level of motivation changes. So I realized to myself, okay, I did the best that I could do, and I think I did a pretty good job for, you know,
your age too, because you're like in the early 20s.
Yeah, early 20s. But I was just like, you know, I have so much energy, I have so much to give, potential. This can't be it. And what do I want to do? Do I want to become, you know, frozen yogurt franchisee and just kind of like have a bunch of locations? No, it's not my passion. It's not who I am. But it served its purpose between hiring people and just putting things together. But after that, I then scaled not that specific business as far as frozen yogurt, but the concept of kiosks. The following year to 10.
What?
I had 10 kiosks. Yeah.
So you started with one, you put it all together, build systems, and then you start duplicating.
Yeah, because remember, I knew that the malls could be successful, the kiosks are good businesses, but it's more of like, you're not just gonna get any kiosk in any mall, you're not just gonna sell any random product.
Yeah.
It's about placement, as far as traffic, which is everything, and it's the product and the margin. So I had to learn. See, I went through all that to then make my big hit.
Yeah.
So yes, I did the clothing, was okay. Yes, I did the frozen yogurt, it was okay. But I learned a lot. Yeah. And then after that, I was like, okay, what products can be very good for the malls? And instead of being there for annual leases, what's the hottest time of the year, right? The hottest time of the year, you know, as far as sales and things like that, is the holiday season.
Holiday,
right? October to January is when things are absolutely insane. Yeah. And what sells the best? This was around 2014, 2015 at the time. I did some product research. I made some interesting relationships with people that are already doing it. I made some contacts in China, in Shenzhen.
Going back to relationships.
Big time.
Yeah.
I did product research. I got a lot of data from a lot of distributors here. And this is when, you know, the hoverboards were super hot.
Yeah, yeah.
No pun intended, because some of them caught on fire. You know what I mean? Drones were very hot too.
Yeah. And that was when the drone.
It was huge. It was huge. Wow. And also, obviously, all the remote control items. All the birds.
The birds, yeah.
Having a good time.
Oh,
enjoying the conversation.
Yeah,
with us?
right.
He's out. So then it was exciting. It was motivating. I felt like my fire was reignited. But it was also very scary because it required a lot more capital to scale to that level that quick. Yeah. And obviously to buy all the different products and things like that, because you can't just go to a local distributor if you want to do it the right way. You have to order containers. Yes. Scale from China, bring it here.
And I used to work in logistics, and nothing wrong with that, but it's
a lot can go wrong. Yeah. A lot can go wrong. A lot. So I learned a lot about logistics. I learned about bringing things by ship, by sea, bringing things by air if you want to pay a little more, you want to have it more.
And then that could kill your margin.
100%.
It's like the cost between air and containers is a huge difference, you know?
You know, when people describe the term landed, right? Your final cost after everything, it's completely different, but it's all about time. Yeah. So, you know, if you feel like you can get rid of a certain product super quick, but like you can move a lot of it, and time is your friend and your best ally, you're just gonna do everything that you can to get it here. Yes. Because sometimes just keeping the business moving is the most important thing. Maybe if your margins are affected. But it was a balancing act. Did very well, extremely well. That's the biggest hit that I made in my early 20s.
You raised capital and...
No, actually, I used my own money.
To put everything. I mean, you started with a small business, and I imagine anything that you raised from those small businesses got you to the next ones.
100%.
But I mean, by raise capital, it was a good business to raise capital to start, I guess, real estate too. Yeah. How do you get to real estate?
Sure. So once I was done with the kiosks and I kind of exited that in 2015, the reason why I exited it was because I realized that online sales and like Amazon, things like that were taking over.
They were taking over, yeah.
You know,
stuff that you're talking about, stuff that you cannot control.
Someone can come to the mall and buy from me, right, on the site, right, and they can pay like retail, but then all of a sudden they can go on Amazon now and get it for a fraction of the cost. So I realized that trend, and again, like you were saying, trends, right? I jumped out of that business. I'm like, I don't want to do this because I feel like it's a sinking ship eventually, and I don't want to be there when it sinks. So then I was like, okay, I have a decent amount of money saved. I don't want to be this guy. I don't want to be this entrepreneur that jumps from business to business and is always just looking for a quick hit or whatever. I don't want to be the guy that when I go to certain functions, weddings, meetings, whatever it is, I'm introducing myself as, hey, I'm Tal, the entrepreneur that doesn't really have a running business full time.
When people ask you, so Tal, what do you do?
Yeah. But like, it's funny because I was confident because I knew those umbrellas.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Look at you, man.
Everything is well thought here.
Brian, what's up, man? The guy's great setup, by the way. This guy needs more credit.
I need to shoot.
I'm sorry.
From here so
it was getting too serious.
Everything is well thought.
I had to stop for a second. This guy's bleep this up. Fucking awesome.
And it's still work in progress, but yeah, man, every single detail.
No, it's awesome. But yeah, no. So so I had like a lot of money, behind me, and I was just like, I want to get into real estate, and I want to be the type of person that introduces myself with confidence, right? Back to what I was saying before is I had a decent amount of money saved up, but I was kind of like, I was confident in my ability to make money, but I wasn't confident in my description of my profession, and that kind of made me feel bad.
Yeah.
So I was like, how can I get into something that can not only allow me to continuously add to the business and not want to jump ship, but also be very confident and happy about.
So would you say, I know exactly what you mean. So it got to a point that you knew how to make money.
Yeah.
It's like you knew as an entrepreneur how to make money. It was more now, how can I make money and be fulfilled and build something for myself and put a name.
Exactly.
Build a name for myself, which is important too.
Right.
I mean, we're all driven, by two things. Some people are driven by money and others are by significance.
Sure.
We all have a little bit of both in the entrepreneurship board, So I guess in this case, you were making the money, which, you are driven by that, but you were lacking, I guess, that significance of like having something that you could, put your name on.
Yeah, I mean, also, like, money is going to motivate you only so much, but I wanted to figure out how can I utilize my skills in the highest and best way.
Yeah.
And also, how can I just continuously drive my energy towards something that I can just build on, rather than just build it up and then throw it away and then build it up and throw it away.
So you became an agent.
Became an agent. I signed up with a family friends team, Remax Preferred. Interesting situation because remember, I was self-employed. I was my own boss, my own motivator. Went from that to then being managed, having a boss. But I think it's important for people to understand that if you want to better yourself and you want to get to that point, your ego is not your amigo. Always. It's just not. You got to leave that shit out the door.
Yeah.
You got to come in there and you got to listen, because when you talk, you only talk about the things that you know, right? You don't learn.
So what you're saying is you had businesses where you were the boss, 100%.
Employees, everything,
You left all of that and then started being part of a team and being supervised.
100%.
And
micromanaged.
Micromanaged.
It was weird.
But you humble yourself because you knew that this is a whole industry that I don't know of, and I need that. I need that guidance.
Yeah.
Which is powerful because it's hard especially when you're young too, and you have fully control of everything that you're doing, and you're making the money.
Right.
So that's awesome that you did that, and then you got the guidance. I imagine it was a learning experience. What happened? You went on your own after?
So yeah, I mean, it just like getting into real estate really motivated me. I took it as a challenge. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna figure this shit out. I'm gonna make it my bitch. You know what I mean? I'm gonna like learn this, and I'm gonna be the best at it.
Yes.
And yes, I humbled myself, and I realized that it's for a greater cause down the road. So I just became a student of the game. My first year, I did extremely well, and as an agent, getting deals is hard. But especially your first year when you don't know shit, and you don't have relationships, it's very difficult. I believe I did 22 deals.
Wow.
My first year. And
you know how many I did my first year?
How many?
One.
One?
So 22 deals.
22.
Sales.
22.
Wow.
Yeah. I think 2 of them were rentals and majority of them were buying leads.
Yeah.
Because the program that I was in was like Zillow fed leads.
Yeah.
And some of them were listings, but my weekends became weekdays. I even stopped talking to a lot of my friends. I was just so driven. I was so motivated to become successful in this. I really just wanted to master it.
Wow. 22 sales. What happened? I guess that, you know, I imagine it happened like a lot of people that start in the team, they learn from the team. But again, I'm noticing that it wasn't, the trend is even dropping out from school, it's wanting something for yourself. Being in a team, it serves its purpose. You don't have to tell me you went on your own at some point. Did you jump into being a real estate investor first, or do you start as a real estate agent?
So I want to just take a second before I jump into that. I want to say something that I've never publicly said to any of my friends or any of my, my family. The only people that know are the people that were involved in that.
Yeah.
There was a moment in time before I got the 22 deals where I almost quit.
Really?
In real estate. I almost quit. I was working so damn hard for months. I had so many hot leads and I felt like I was literally, like I was cursed. Everything was falling apart. I had contracts signed, sellers backed out, buyers backed out.
Yeah.
I was like, what the hell is?
That's usually what. Yeah.
Right. I was like, what the hell is going on here? And I remember I was talking to the assistant of the team leader, and I was telling her, I'm like, what the hell is this? And she goes, just hang in there, believe in your abilities, da da da. So it's very important for everyone to understand, like, especially when it gets to real estate, or if you want to become an entrepreneur, it's not going to be easy.
Yeah.
You have to have that perseverance. You have to have that grit. You have to have, your whys and your motivation in check, because you're going to have so many times where you're going to almost fall.
Yeah.
And you're not going to get to where you want to get to right away. But you just got to keep motivating yourself, because no one's going to do it for you. Let's be real, guys. No one gives a shit.
Yeah.
No one cares. You have to do this yourself. You have to motivate yourself, and you have to constantly remind yourself, have a dream board, daily affirmations, and all that. I was so close to giving up on everything. You and I wouldn't be sitting here.
Yeah.
Me and
100%.
Eric wouldn't be business partners.
Yeah.
All the deals that we did together would have never happened.
100%.
Vanished.
And that happened to me too. And the more I interact with successful people and agents in the industry, they actually get into the conversation. They usually open up. And even being successful now, they express to me how they're tired and exhausted. So going back to like money, like it's not only the money. It's
Definitely
not only the money, because
No.
it's an industry that if you don't know how to manage it and build systems and create something that can build a business and not being self-employed, if you don't create that independency within what you do, then it creates this environment and this feeling of like kind of like hatred to what you do. It's like it's making the money, but it's
almost
like,
a chore.
Yeah, it's a chore.
There's no passion behind it anymore,
And you feel like a job.
Yeah.
And we come to this business to get away from the 9 to 5.
Yeah.
And have that independency, and then we fall into that. So
I think a big thing to your point is, in order to become successful, you have to fall in love with failure.
Yeah.
Powerful line.
That's awesome.
Fall in love with failure. Think about that. You have to almost anticipate it, expect
Yeah.
it. Not be okay with it.
Yeah.
Not let it stay, but let it pay its.
Yes. Know that it's coming.
100%. It's super important.
So agent, how do you get into investment?
So while I was doing that, while I was becoming an agent, I was doing all the deals and stuff. The team leader at the time was also doing flips. And the way that he was getting those leads was through the public auctions. So I learned a lot in terms of like lead generation, in terms of how to deal with contractors. And I was speaking to a very good friend of mine at the time, Eric, which obviously you know very well.
Business partner, yeah.
Yep. And I was just telling him, hey man, we should really get into real estate. He was a CPA at the time.
Yeah.
He had some money behind him. I had some money behind me, and we just decided to get together and meet a couple of times a week. Put a plan together, went to a couple seminars, read some books, locked ourselves in Nova Southeastern University library for a couple hours.
Wow.
And just,
became a student. I'm noticing that too. You became a student in every single business that you had.
Yep.
it's like, even you mentioned that when you joined the team as a real estate agent and now as an investor became a student again, like from zero start learning.
Always. You have to go in with the right mentality that you don't know everything.
Yep.
No ego, willing to learn, willing to put in the work. And that was my motivating, drive. And so, we took it on as a challenge, and we understood that obviously being a real estate investor or flipping houses or whatever, however you want to categorize it, can be very lucrative. Everyone watches those shows, everyone sees, flip or flop and all that, and you see the nice fancy profit margin at the end.
Yeah.
And so that was enough for us to kind of like say, okay, let's give it a shot.
Yeah.
So we dove into it. Our first 3 deals were very, 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 very successful for people that were just starting.
That's awesome. Terrell.
Oh yeah.
So I had
Terrell, shout out, man. Man,
there you go.
Man.
Yeah. The first episode, guys, if you want, go back to that one. Amazing conversation. It was expressing his first deal, like, was a total. It was the worst happened. You know how when you're flipping, one of the biggest fears is the city regulations. As the city and the county can come at you and start putting restrictions, enforcing the construction. Like, all of that happened to him. It was a major loss. So in your case, the first 3 was successful.
First 3. But keep in mind, let me kind of like touch on that because, I think people will find it funny. The first deal that we ever got was a condo in downtown Fort Lauderdale on 2nd Street.
Flipping a condo.
And the way, kind of going back a little bit, the way that we got into it wasn't like, being kind of efficient and marketing out and doing all that. No, we started door knocking. So we would go to the public auction, we would see the schedule, we would see, whose property is supposed to go up when. We would kind of do a pencil search, figure out exactly what the debt is on the property, how much potential income there is, blah, blah, blah. And then we'd make a list, and then we would organize in terms of like urgency and importance.
And go
door knock. Fearless. We didn't give a shit. We're like, you know what? We see the potential spread, the profits. Let's fucking do it. You know what I mean? And how much does it cost us? 0.
Yeah.
The only thing that costs us is our time.
And sweat.
Sweat equity, baby. So we went, and this is the funny thing. Eric and I were at the building, and we looked through the directory, and we saw the individual's, number and whatever thing to call them. Tried it 2 or 3 times, didn't answer. And we saw someone that was in our graduating class in high school, saw their name.
You saw the name?
We saw their name there, yeah.
We didn't even know that he lived there.
It was a girl, but yeah, we didn't know she was there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and we're like, you know what, fuck it, let's do it. So we rang her, we're like, hey, Samantha.
Wow.
How you doing? Graduation was a long time ago, but can you let us in? So she let us in.
Wow.
And it's so funny how certain things have to like work out in a way to get to that point. So we got there and we knocked on the guy's door and did the whole thing, pitched him, flipped that, made blah blah blah. And that was enough for us to both, obviously after that deal and the other 2 deals, to both quit what we were doing and jump in full time. And obviously the rest is history.
You saw the value. You saw the money. You tasted, saw the value. It's just, again, you knew how you to do. It's just more like exploded and go full force.
Yeah.
And so from there you start like flipping more and more. I imagine you don't have to tell me, but it was so you probably have so many stories as far as like
100%.
Underwriting the wrong deal, hiring the wrong contractor. Tell me one that happened at the beginning, because I like people to relate to that, because everybody, especially when you're in this side of the industry, it's so you only see the nice flip and HGTV, but I want people to relate with the story. Brian, I want to flip a house and this and that. It's a lot that go into yes, it's a lucrative business, but there's a lot of risk. So tell me one of those first stories that didn't go exactly as you expected.
Okay. So the first house that we flipped, the first single family home that we flipped, we brought in a contractor that we got referred to us by someone. We didn't know what the hell we were doing. We didn't know anything about construction. We didn't know anything about materials.
Yeah.
We don't know anything about anything.
Yeah.
He took advantage of us, charged us a shitload. But again, it's a part of the game. You know what I mean? He had his little hit, he had his little win, but we learned from that and got better. That's one situation. We had contractors that would literally cause issues in the property to then try and bill us.
What?
We had somebody that poked a hole through the roof said, hey, look, there's a leak there, and all of a sudden now you got to do all this.
Oh my God.
We had contractors that would go to the houses at night, and they would steal the appliances.
Wow.
And one time we had this property in Hollywood, I believe it was on Harrison Street, and they stole the washer and dryer. They didn't turn the water off. They just pulled all the connections through the wall, and then the entire house flooded. Mind you, this was a week before listing.
Wow.
We had so many different situations, but it's just a part of the business. You have to go through it until you figure out exactly what works for you.
Sometimes you lose, sometimes you learn.
For sure.
Those were learning experiences. So 1, 2, 3, 4. How many have you flipped so far?
I don't know the exact number, but hundreds.
Hundreds,
yeah. After a certain point, you stop keeping count. You're not really driven by a number, you're driven by efficiency. I remember there was different levels of motivation for us in the beginning. It was like, oh wow, let's make money. Let's get a 60 popper here, let's get a 40 popper here, let's get a 200 pop, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Then you're like, nah, you do it long enough, all of a sudden it gets regular. Now let's change the motivation, let's change the goal, let's build a team.
Yes.
Let's build a marketing machine. Let's become efficient. Let's bring in acquisition agents. Let's bring on, construction managers, so we don't have to go to all the properties. Let's bring on all these different things. And
it's crazy because you're good at that too, of building systems, because it's necessary. There's just so much that go into it. I talk a lot about, some other investors, and they tell me that scaling is one of the hardest part, because you got to deal with contractors, but you got to also remember that you have to pay the electricity, water on that property. The lawn needs to be kept on, all the materials, where to get it from, cheapest for it.
It's a balancing act, for sure.
It's a lot that goes into it.
It's a lot.
That's one property. Imagine doing multiples, because that's what makes you, that's where you want to go to become wealthy.
Have you ever heard the expression? I'm sure you have. You read a lot. You have to lose your mind through the process. Seriously, I can literally attest to that. I remember from when I was in the kiosks to when I was an agent to when I got into investments. I had moments where I felt like I was losing my mind in the process because there was so much shit going on.
Yeah.
And there's a lot on my plate. But if you can figure out how to manage that and persevere through it and have that endurance, you can become successful at anything. Period. So it's like catching yourself there, right? And just keep going.
And not being afraid also to sacrificing the small, pursuing at the big, in the sense of, like, let's say you have a deal, and when you run the numbers, if you manage everything yourself, you're gonna make $30,000. But if you hire somebody that manages the transaction, if you leverage the systems, and you get a better quality material, contractor, everything, but it flows, that you don't have to, it free up that time, you ended up making a third of that 10K. It's like, but that time that you free up, it's to get another property, and it helps you to leverage, which I feel that you've done, because I've seen your business grow throughout the years too, and how you leverage yourself in all aspects, starting with me too, because that's how we connected. A lot of people may see us and they think that, we were friends from before, but it started as a business relationship, where you, at some point, being an agent, you used to lease the property yourself. But you realize that as you start acquiring more, you needed to free up that time too. And that meaning that had a cost. You had to pay somebody 100%. To sell the properties for 100%. You. Sometimes we get fixed into not wanting to pay that and keep everything, but it's the only way to go. And it worked out, because free up the time. Now you're like focusing on acquiring more and being more efficient to make the most out of each one of 100%. Those deals. And that's the only way to grow to that extent.
I agree with you 100%. It's a big mindset thing. Yeah. First of all, you have to be familiar with the concept. You have to identify the concept, and you have to be okay with the concept. Because sometimes people are closed-minded and they don't really want to go that direction. I look at real estate now. It's very interesting. You underwrite a deal. You see your potential spread. How can I leverage the potential equity that I have in the deal to then scale? That's the question. Right? Like you were saying, even with your own business, right? You have Evelyn, you have all these different things, you have transaction manager.
Yes.
It's like, okay, here's my potential profit, right? How can I take that and pick it apart to then multiply it by 10, 20, 50, 100, whatever it is? That's what we learned very quickly.
And that applies to any industry,
100%.
any business. It happened to you. You started one kiosk. The only way to get to 20 kiosks is to have people in each one of them.
Yeah.
Even probably a manager, the supervisor, all of them, like
systems, everything.
And I learned that the hard way, and like after a while, you know, the earlier that you understand that concept, the better, because you can buy time. Like get your time back and leverage yourself so fast if you understand that early in your business.
For sure. And again, going back to like what I was saying about losing your mind through the process, when we started scaling, and we scaled very, very quickly, relatively speaking, to our business, I was doing acquisitions, which is extremely difficult when you're dealing with a lot of people that are going through pre-foreclosure, because they're very needy and they require your time and your effort. Sometimes we would sit with people for hours, consulting, helping them.
Because there's the emotional part. They're losing their house.
And you're literally like a psychologist. That's what it is. You have to like baby them through everything, and you have to really care, because like you want to help them. You know, obviously you're motivated by money, but you also want to treat them like people.
Yeah.
So I was doing acquisitions, I was listing the properties, I was managing the contractors, I was doing so much. And as you scale, it's just so much shit on your plate. You're like, I can't fucking do this.
Yes.
But then, again, like I said, you catch yourself and you're like, how can I leverage things correctly? Bring on Brian, let him do what he does best, listing the properties. Bring on Hector, shout out Hector, my man. Let him manage the contractors.
And truly empower them, and
100%.
trusting too.
Yeah.
Obviously, you gotta bring the right person that you trust for it. It takes time to build up trust, but letting them do, which I feel also that's been the success. Like you don't, going back to talking about micromanaging, you don't micromanage it. You're the owner of stuff, but we build that relationship, but you trust that if I tell you like this is the most that I can get you for that property, you know, it is that.
Here's the deal. As a successful business owner, operator, we're naturally headhunters, right?
Yep.
We look for people to do specific tasks and to, you know, manage certain things. If I have to micromanage you, I did a terrible job at that. That's how I look at it.
Yeah.
That means that something went wrong in my analyzation of you as a professional, as a person.
Yes.
And I fucked up.
Yes, that makes total sense.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you gotta go back to why did you pick Brian in the first place? Or why do you pick Hector? Why
100%. You have to see that. You can identify the potential, maybe modify some things, maybe help, whatever, motivate, whatever. But like you...
Maybe it's not a character trait. It's more like an SOP. It's more like a trusting yourself, you know? So that's powerful. And I noticed that, and you have those qualities. That's what got you where you are too. You guys, you and Eric, are now heading to a new direction, going big projects.
Yeah.
And that is awesome. That is awesome. Developing real estate. And not only developing small communities, hundreds of units. How do you get there? Was that part of the dream, the ultimate goal always? Do you see yourself there? Did it happen by chance?
So you remember back to what I was saying earlier about not wanting to get into short-term businesses that don't really have a direction where you can't build? That's my thought process. That was my motivation with real estate. I knew that the beginning stage, obviously there's a lot of different ways to get into it, but for me, was to become an agent. And the end-all be-all, which is still not an end-all be-all, is development, because you can always be better at something. So that was my driving, motivating factor, is just to do that, to get to that point eventually.
Yeah.
It didn't happen by chance. It happened by going through a shit ton of experiences and going through a shit ton of failures and going through a shit ton of wins, and racking up wins and skills along the way. What's interesting is that we're in a business where we can leverage current systems that we have and individuals to then navigate towards a different facet of the business, which is development. It wasn't easy. We've been in development now for 2 years.
Yeah.
We don't have any finalized project as of yet. We're going through a lot of the planning stages with some of these projects, but we're very close. I think it's just having your whys and your goals and your understanding of what you want really down pat.
What do you think was obviously getting the deals that you are going to develop? It's the essential. It's what start everything. Without the deal, without the location to develop, you don't have nothing.
Right.
But what would you say was the key factor to get into development?
the key factor. So I'll tell you a little story. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
So a part of what we do is we market a lot, as you know. We spend hundreds of thousands of dollars every month in marketing. Some of those marketing channels are direct mail.
Yeah.
We had a very specific situation where we marketed out to an individual. It was a duplex, and the seller called us, and they weren't interested in selling that property. But then they told us that they had a piece of land in Fort Lauderdale that they were interested in selling. Long story short, shout out Sebastian, the man. He was the acquisition agent on that file. He was able to do a great job at cultivating the relationship. He stayed very, very consistent, and he wouldn't let up with the seller, even though the seller was extremely difficult. And this guy's been around the block, no pun intended. Literally, he's been wanting to sell for a while, but no one was able to get him to do it. And he was able to do a very good job, and we got under contract. We ended up buying the piece of land. We brought in some equity partners, some strategic partners.
Yeah.
And
talking about relationships. Right. Yeah.
The thing is about this, piece of land, even though it's in a very hot area, it's in an opportunity zone, up and coming area, tertiary market to Fort Lauderdale, blah, blah, blah. It's a hard corner lot, 19,000 square feet.
Wow.
It was feasible, but it could have been much more feasible if we had an opportunity to assemble more land from the surrounding properties. The only opportunity that we had was a small Haitian church, which was on the west side. And so I took it upon myself to give them a call. They were listed at the time, but they had all these crazy expectations that they wanted to, get something else and all this, whatever.
Yeah.
But long and short of it, I ended up meeting with the listing agent. I understood their wants, their needs, developed a relationship with them.
How long did it take you to close that deal?
Well, the thing is, we didn't close it.
What do you mean?
We didn't close that deal. The thing is that while looking for a replacement church for them, after understanding exactly what it would take, we found another opportunity. So we went crazy, Eric and I. We put together marketing pieces to religious facilities in Fort Lauderdale.
There was another phase within the business.
Oh, yeah,
so
yeah.
You went back to being a student.
100%. 100%. You always have to, but you have to have that spirit with you. Doesn't matter how successful you become. You have to always be able to want to learn and to apply yourself in different situations. And it doesn't matter, because here's the problem. Once you become successful in certain ways, I feel like some people feel like they're too good to put their time in certain. But I wouldn't close the door on that fully. Leave it open, because you never know what's there.
Yep.
I'm not saying go and spend your time in every place.
You gotta be smart. Where do you invest your time when you get to a certain level?
Right. But keep the door of opportunity open, because you never know what might come in. And I can attest to that. I've gotten some of the craziest deals by just being open-minded. Simple as that. So anyways, we did a couple of things. We put together a marketing campaign for religious facilities within a couple miles, blah, blah, blah.
Wow.
We did that. We went door knocked. We had our runners going door knock.
Going back to the basics.
Back to the basics. And I actually went on the MLS. As you know, you're not shy of that. We know how to find deals on the MLS. And I found an expired listing for a church in Fort Lauderdale. This was in Flagler Village. As most of you probably know, it's an up-and-coming area. It's like the Wynwood of Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah.
And we found an interesting situation. There was a church that was there for about 32 years, and they had close to 2 acres of land there. And the thing is, they were trying to sell for 10 years. They had
10 years.
Different brokers list their property, cancel, withdraw. It was on the market. It was on the market multiple times by multiple brokers. And I was just like, I remember when I first saw the opportunity, I got so fucking excited. I was like, what the fuck is this? I'm like, no way, because we got a first piece of land, and we're trying to make that better. Now all of a sudden we found this, and it's very close. It's like 0.3, 0.4 miles away. I remember I called Derek, and I sent him a list. I'm like, bro, what is this? He goes, yeah, it looks good. This could be something. And the zoning at the time for that piece of land was RM25, which is 25 dwellings per acre.
Yeah.
And the way to make it more feasible and to make it something like really, really significant is by assembling the rest of the properties on that block, which there were 4 other sellers, and changing the zoning from RM25 to Northwest WAC MUE, which basically means that you have no density restrictions.
Yes, a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. My point is, we identified an opportunity. We thought that church could potentially, maybe if the price is right, could be a replacement for the other church. But then we realized that this was much bigger than that. So what did I do? This is pretty funny, and I think people would, really find this motivating. again, doesn't matter what level of the game you're at, doesn't matter how successful you're at. I took it upon myself to go in the public records, look at the mailing address of, the property, and I actually went to the pastor's brother's house for that church.
Wow.
Myself, and I door knocked.
Door knock.
After all the success, after all the houses flipped, after everything, after all that, I didn't care because I saw an opportunity and I thought it was worth my time. And you know what? Kind of excited me too.
Yeah.
It's like, fuck it, whatever. It's like a treasure hunt.
Yeah,
way,
exactly.
So I went there, and I remember for the first 30 minutes, no one answered, and then there's a Ring camera, and I clicked on the thing, and the pastor's brother's son answered, and he wasn't there at the time. He was in New York. He's like, who are you? Like, why are you here? Why are you in front of my dad's house? And I'm there literally for like 15 minutes trying to convince him. I'm like, I want to buy the church.
Yeah.
And so I became friends with him, cultivated a relationship. Yeah, made him feel comfortable. And he gave me his phone number. He's like, I'm not going to give you my dad's information. I'm going to talk to my dad. I'm going to see if he's interested, and then I'll get back to you. After 2-3 days, he gave me his dad's number. Became friends with the dad. Me and him, by the way, we talk until today, even after the deal was done and everything. He calls me, I call him all the time. I'm actually like very good friends with him.
Nice.
Interesting stuff. So for 2 weeks, I was blowing up the pastor's brother, and I was like, get me a meeting with your brother, the pastor, and his wife. And the wife was the decision maker, as wives are in most situations, right? And so we met at a Starbucks. And keep in mind, I was still fresh into development, into relocations and allocations and all this shit. I didn't know what the fuck I was talking about, but I just kind of threw myself out there, right? Because I saw an opportunity, I didn't want to pass it up, and I was just high off the motivation of potentially making this happen into something greater.
Yeah.
So I met them at Starbucks. Imagine this: it was me at Starbucks, sitting outside with the pastor and the pastor's wife. I can only imagine people walking by, like, what the fuck? Like, what is this?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was just like, guys, I'm gonna buy your church. I'm gonna buy your land. I'm gonna relocate you. What do you need? What do you want? What went wrong with everybody else? Let me kind of shave
going back to
the learning curve.
Motivation. Yeah.
Tell me let me shave the learning curve. I don't want to go through this whole process that everyone else went. What went wrong and what do you want? Then they started to like pay attention to me. Like, wow, this guy actually gives a shit. They told me we wanted, to find a replacement church.
The question wasn't how much you want.
No.
It's what do you want.
It's what do you want? What's going to make you happy? What are your needs?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm not just here trying to throw money at you. I'm not trying to make this very transactional. I'm trying to make this real. I'm trying to really understand what your passion is, what you want.
Yeah.
And that touches people, and they want to work with you. And they gave me a shot, and they told me, look, they had nothing to lose. I was the one that was really just putting my neck out on the line, but I wanted the challenge. And they told me we want a facility that's bigger than ours right now, hopefully enough to maybe put like a school in there so we can have some supplementary income, to help pay some of the operating expenses for the church, blah, blah, blah. And we want more land. I'm like, holy shit, this is going to be hard.
Yeah,
more land. You have 2 acres now and you want more land, you want a bigger, oh my God. And then I didn't understand anything about like religious facilities or the likelihood of finding those leads and things like that until I got into the search.
Yeah.
And it took me 7 months.
Wow.
5 different contracts, 4 of which were off market.
Wow.
Which was very fucking difficult, extremely difficult.
Yeah.
And then the last one, I remember, guys, be diligent. Don't let anything slip through the cracks. Think of everything at all times and always be on top of your shit. Always. Always be on top of your stuff.
100%.
Always. And I'll tell you why. It's because I always thought of everything, and because I always paid attention to everything, and because I always gave 100% of myself to every single potential avenue to find that opportunity for them. I got lucky and I created a reoccurring search, and I found their new home now.
Yeah. I
got an email saying special purpose church, Unitarian Universalist Church, Oakland Park. It was listed at $3.9 million. And I was like, I remember the email came in. I was like, holy shit. This is exactly what they want.
They're looking for. You've been working with them for 7 months. You knew exactly.
But mind you, it wasn't just me and then the pastor and the pastor's wife.
Yeah.
It was all of them every time for the first 4 contracts. There was like 50 of them that came with me.
You invested a lot of time.
So much fucking time with no guarantees. I wasn't going to, but I knew how badly I wanted this opportunity, and I knew I could get it done. And almost lost my mind through the process because I was so obsessed with getting it done. You
have to be able to make it happen. I
was invested.
You have to, yeah.
But you have to. But like the thing is, like I knew what could come from that if I got to the finish line, not only for myself personally and professionally, but for us collectively as a business and for our reputation.
Yes.
Like, this is not just Tal and Eric, the home flippers and the wholesalers. This is Tal and Eric. They're doing some big boy shit.
Yes.
They're developers now. And then I've gotten deals from this now too, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Because of that reputation.
Yeah.
So, long story short, got them the deal, worked out a super amazing deal for them. They got 4.2 acres. They got a facility that was 2,500 square feet bigger than their existing one, renovated, top notch, and they walked away with over $1 million in cash.
What a story, man.
Amazing, amazing, amazing.
What a story. Amazing that you were able to close it out with that. I mean, that story, if doesn't motivate someone, man, I don't know what else. Like, there's so much there, the persistence, the fact that you didn't get a no. As soon as somebody gets you an opportunity and they share what they want, you know, it's like you're not afraid to put the work, the time. Like, that is so inspiring. And that is something that I really admire and respect about you, bro.
Appreciate it.
I do. I got so much from this. Like, we spend some time, you know, every day, but it's crazy because it's like, even though we're in the same office, same space, we're like into work, that, you know, we don't sometimes stop and have these conversations, but I personally got so much from this, and I know that everybody looking at this as well, because it worked for you, you know, like, it's a successful story all the way. You talk about building a name for yourself, which is important. We all should have some sort of like motivation in that matter, and it worked for you. Now you have that achievement in your belt, like the fact that you're gonna have, once it's done, because that's the cool thing about real estate, it's tangible. Once those buildings are up, you get to stand up in front of them and look like, I made that happen, you know. So it is powerful. It is powerful, and the best personality trait that I like about you is the fact of the people side. You know how to read people, you know how to read situation, and that is because you care. You know, you care with the people. It translates with the people that you work with, because I experienced that myself. Like, you're genuinely interested in seeing people win. You know,
I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
And it translates into business. You gotta be a giver and approach every situation in that aspect, and people and things just will come to you.
100%.
Let's take the hard work, the putting together the deals aside. What opens the door for all of that is, you know, connecting with the people, which you're super good at. Now hearing your story, it makes total sense why. And man, this is just the beginning, bro.
Oh yeah.
This is just the beginning. So, man, I'm not too expressive, you know that, but gotta tell you that I have a lot of respect and admiration for that.
Likewise.
And looking forward to see what's coming, brother. Thank you so much for the time, and let's keep building.
It's my pleasure, bro.
Let's do it.